因为我们刚从亚运回来嘛，然后也有半个多月没一起训练嘛，所以中间版本也有改变一些东西嘛，然后队友磨合的也一起打训练时间也不多嘛，所以就可能给自己的训练时间不多嘛，然后我们自己练新东西啊，还有磨合多多少少还是有一些下降嘛，所以可能就自己没打得特别好吧，所以这次的话就可能想争取更多的时间去练习一些新东西吧。
Context is actually super interesting coming in from Ming because we were talking about the preparation going at least into Champion Select when they were going up against JD, now here today as well. The fact that, I mean, yeah, half the team just hasn't been here because Asian Games took up a large time of their time in the last month or so.
Yeah, you do have to think about they spend 1 week in practice with the other LPL teams and then another week going to Asian Games and taking medal itself. So that's a lot of time out on 8.15. So essentially they're looking at a 2-patch leap into the future, and that could be a good reason why they're keeping half of their roster still in the practice room.
Yeah, so now the fact that they're utilizing this, what seems like, in terms of just practicing, seeing, because remember, major opponents for RNG, if they were to look ahead, is going to be Rogue Warriors, and of course, if they get past that, it's going to be the finals. So for them, knowing that their ultimate goal is to go to the finals once again, remember, 5 times in a row they were able to make it to the LPL finals. They see that in their paths once again. And so they're just saying, TOP, if you can challenge us in this series, we'll force our cards out there. But for now, you have to be able to at least take that one game.
Yeah, they'll keep it to their chest. For now, we have TOP picking blue side coming into game 2, and we also have Let Me In for Zatai. So no change specifically in the bottom lane. I mean, you see Uzi up there. I know someone else who sees Uzi and looking at former members, Korn in the mid lane. He's just like, apparently I just need at least 1 win to draw out Uzi. I might just have this entire series. I don't even get to see him.
And I think Korn could use that first pick to really draw Uzi out because he could go onto the Aurelia pick. We've seen that he's willing to play it blind, and in this meta, there aren't a lot of hard Aurelia counters in lane. They buffed her HP, they buffed her attack. She's much closer to a bruiser right now, and she does better in the matchups that she used to do poorly in. So not a lot of strong counters for Aurelia. Important champion for both sides.
It was a slight change, and of course you're right about the attack, her passive being buffed, and it changed her playstyle. I think the biggest one as well is the Electrocute nerfs coming through, where last series we saw the LeBlanc being picked up against the Aurelia time and again. And though while you can say it changes LeBlanc's trading pattern so she can go in and out a little bit more frequently, I mean in consistent, longer fights, that actually favors the Aurelia. And you'd want the LeBlanc to either set up for the gank or to outright burst her. She cannot have that option. And so it's a little harder in that matchup now for the LeBlanc.
Yeah, Rise of the Aurelia, also Rise of the Urgot, which got banned out in the last set. You can see Let Me on your screen right now. Going into the top lane, though that being said, Zatai rotated into the mid lane, so we'll see. But Let Me has also been picking up carries himself recently, such as the Akali.
And so that's what I'm looking towards. I want to see if Zatai is willing to pick up, Let Me is willing to pick up the Akali in the top lane. We haven't seen Let Me go mid lane, and so if we're talking about just the laning phase dynamics, in the historically we've just seen Zatai is not in the game, Xiaohu's going mid. And so I wonder now if that changes anything. Coming back on towards the field, is TOP going to recognize Let Me's there and now look to ban out the Rise, or say, hey, you know what, we'll give you Rise, but now we're more comfortable that we have the Orianna matchup. Last time around, that wasn't the comfort that they had.
One of the big things about Let Me is that this split, he's actually gotten a lot more jungle attention towards the top lane. They constantly go for him for first blood, and he's actually one of the highest sources for first blood, not even the bot lane for RNG. Even when he's playing a tank, they're very careful to give him enough resources to at least get him some semblance of lane priority. So Let Me, for me, this split, he's been the best performing player, the most consistent player on RNG.
And usually you have fans, walling off their faces, but they just got straight walled off by other fans right there. And you can see Let Me, the Ornn player in top lane.
I've seen that meme so much as of late. Walk me through it, Clement, because he's just been playing a lot of Ornn.
All right, so every time there's an Ornn play on Let Me, every RNG fan feels safe in their heart. They know that he can consistently get them their team fights, and he's been wrecking it on that Spellbinder Ornn. One of the biggest plays he's done in Asian games was actually switching to Clarity and then using his ultimate, faking out FLICKR and Peanut, who was going up there to kill him, and getting that play into his favor. So Ornn's one of the best champions, and he's one of the cornerstones for RNG's team fight success and getting their initiations.
So we'll see what will come out in this one. I really wanted to see Korn go on another Assassin, if I'm being honest. If you're going to win this game, if you're going to pick up a win it anyway, if you're going to draw out Uzi from the bench, it's probably going to have to be an Assassin in the mid lane. All right, guys, we're going to send it over to Cassius. As you can see, we're in Champions State. Take it away, Fisher and Rusty.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pulse, as well as the rest of the analysts on the desk. We're going to get into the second map of the Specify series between TOP as well as RNG. We're just running through the bans really quickly here, Rusty. Akali, Alistar, as well as Swain being taken away by RNG. For the side of TOP, we're going to have Aatrox, Rakan, and Ryze being banned out. Kai'Sa is their first pick as their AD carry of choice.
Yeah. They've gone full Uzi, you might even say here. RNG have locked in their Kai'Sa as the first champion of choice. The Ryze is the adaptive ban here from the side of TOP. Now they've taken that from Xiaohu. I really like that pick as well. So big fan of this one. From TOP in terms of their bans, I am very curious to see what happens with the picks because it's Abel playing not Uzi and their priority went towards the Kai'Sa.
So they pick it up. You were mentioning that you'd expect TOP to try and go towards that Gragas. It seems like RNG are hell-bent on denying that pick from XX. Gragas gets locked in as the first pick again on RNG side of the map. Irelia gets locked in as well as the second pick, so the Bruiser being taken away from Korn once again. That could be Letme's champion top side of the map. Could be Xiaohu picking it up in the mid lane.
And it is refreshing to see that Chelcho has moved away from just the Swain. You know, a lot of the mages that exist in League of Legends in the bottom lane are completely removed now. Swain is the one that is a die-hard champion, has managed to stay there for a bit longer than some have been welcome. And Chelcho is one of the only players that has been bringing that one out consistently. So it's good to see him go towards the Kai'Sa. And now, of course, when you pick a Kai'Sa first, there is one certainty in the rest of your composition. That is crowd control. You will have CC everywhere to empower her further. I'm looking at, you know, Alistar, of course, is banned this time around, but I'm looking at things like that in the support role. Shen is now going to fit that bill, most likely.
Protect the Kai'Sa. Everyone, if they can make sure that Chelcho stays safe, it's going to be beneficial for TOP. We already saw how good of a match Chelcho had in game 1 for TOP.
We're still in champion.
You know,
it's all good.
Normally when we see that Intel logo, it means we're going into the game. Not the case. We're just going to have a look.
Now we're just doing an evil.
We're moving into the second phase of bans here. Rusty, brought to you by Intel.
Absolutely. And in the second bans, we'll see Yasuo removed. So Akali, Yasuo taken away. RNG removing champions from Korn. Last game we saw the Galio and we saw the LeBlanc taken away, but that's not going to be the case. So Korn actually does have mid lane options available for himself, especially in the way of magic damage. You know, it's not going to be just the Orianna.
Yes, he does.
And more in his wheelhouse, let's say. Orianna being a control mage, he looked fine, but it wasn't comfort for him like a LeBlanc would be.
Yeah, it doesn't give him the huge carry potential either. Yes, he can hit those big shockwaves, but he already was hitting those big shockwaves. He needs something that can take down individual members of RNG, start the fights for TOP the same way they were doing it in the early game against RNG.
And I will say that whilst I potentially discredit the Orianna as a choice, it's perfectly viable with a Kai'Sa type composition and with all the crowd control around it. So having an extra shield is something that would be super nice. I am curious to see which direction he goes, and I think with the Zac lock-in, Orianna is now gone from contention completely. I think that's just a little bit too much kill threat from long range onto, you know, a standard control mage with no mobility, so we'll see.
Cool, but they could just add on to the protection that Kai'Sa gets here, Rusty. If they go towards the Galio, that's a very tanky mid lane champion who, if builds AP, would pack a lot of punch, and it's even more protection for Kai'Sa.
Makes me wonder what's going to be left for their composition, if it's something in the top lane or if it's going to be in the support role. So that's the direction we're looking at now. There's a hover of the Tahm Kench. That would put the Shen in top lane, but they change at the last second. They make it the Camille Galio combo. That's something that is very strong from them. I was expecting potentially even the Jarvan Galio type of combo and a top lane Jarvan, but no, it's the Camille.
Yeah, Camille heading into the top lane for Moyu as well. Not Lies that's playing in this match. XX will pick up the Sejuani heading into the jungle. They were thinking about Tahm Kench for a hot second there. That would have been a very heavy protect the Kai'Sa comp.
Oh.
But you're right, the Galio does synergize very well with Camille, but let me, if he's not on Ornn, which was banned against him in this match, Rusty, one of his other signature picks is the Malphite, the rock in the top lane.
My face went Malphite. He's definitely going to be rocking out in the top lane now. So Letme's put his fist down. He said, I am going to carry this one as a tank, and it's not going to be an Ornn. That's for certain. It was banned away, as was the Cho'Gath. But he's still got a deep champion pool. And when it comes to tanks, and whilst it was limited, he'll find something. He finds the Malphite. So a bit of extra engage.
Malphite's had some of his abilities changed quite heavily. The Brutal Strikes have been changed. His Ground Slam's been changed as well. He scales very heavily on armor now. And Malphites are going towards Trinity Force,
And I
going
believe-
towards the Sunfire Caves as well.
Yeah, along those lines, I believe that he's also very good into the Camille matchup from
Yes,
memory,
he is.
because you just slam the ground whenever she comes towards you, and it's very hard for her to get those constant passive procs off. You know, press the attack a bit harder to achieve, and consistent damage if you go for Conqueror, even harder to get down and utilize. So whilst the Camille in lane may not be the best matchup, they've got very different roles in team fights.
Even in solo queue, Malphites are running around with Ignite now. That's how much kill pressure he has in lane, that Ignite is almost enough to tip the scales in his favor in a couple of matchups. And Let Me is one of those experienced top laners who can use Malphite to his advantage. We've seen him get solo kills in the lane before as a tank. In the team fights, he's a crucial component to the composition that RNG have drafted. I mean, pairing up with the likes of Zac from the jungle, that's a lot of tanks that are diving straight into the back lines and a lot of ways to try and shut down Kai'Sa. They hovered the Tahm Kench for the side of TFP. They went for Camille instead. Now there is no guaranteed way to protect Kai'Sa. It is up to Cho as well as the tanks to actually stop the onslaught of RNG from diving into the back lines.
Yeah, it becomes one of those really big battles of front-to-back type of League of Legends on can you actually execute on those team fights? Can you kill the Kai'Sa? Or will the flanks come up super clutch? You know, and RNG have already proven that they've got the capabilities of flanks. They've got a Malphite who can teleport, a Zac who can get entry from flanking positions, and a Gragas who can force front-to-back team fights to feel a little bit awkward.
And we could see a little bit more from Korn in this match as well. Yes, he is on Galio, more supportive base champion, but paired with the likes of Camille means he could be a big playmaker for the squad. But let's get on to the Rift for Map 2, this Best of 5 series. We're getting onto the map here, Rusty. Already, you can hear the crowd. RNG in their home stadium for this semi-finals match. So quarterfinals match.
It's a big game. RNG starting 1-0 up. They've got the momentum in a game where you probably say maybe they shouldn't have. The way that TOP controlled the early game, controlled the mid game, actually set themselves up to succeed.
They did.
It's a very similar roster this time around. Of course, Let Me is the change. Let Me is the addition into the mix for RNG. It doesn't change the rest of the map. The one thing you have to look at now is XX is not on the Camille. That's gone towards the top lane. That's more you. XX is on the Sejuani. So I think a bit more confident in his own play. Perhaps he's defaulted to something more safe, but it still works with the composition.
Do you feel like there's ever a scenario where a player would go, okay, XX, I had a horrible game on Camille last match. Please don't give it the chance. If you want to pick it, put it top lane instead. Do you think there's an actual scenario where XX is like, I need something else?
I mean, there's absolutely a chance, right? If you consider that it was a Zinzao to Camille, though, there was chances they kill him. Compositionally, Camille was always the one who was going to die. So I think it could be more a recognition of not going, hey guys, I sucked at this, don't let me have this again. More of a, what can we pick that would be better while still feeling a similar style? I think that's where they've gone towards here.
There's very early aggression in the bottom lane here, Rusty. Abel taking quite a bit of damage. When Kai'Sa was released, Press the Attack was a niche Keystone rune for AD carries. Everyone was going towards Fleet Footwork, but worked very well on Kai'Sa. Not being picked up, instead going now towards the unpopular Fleet Footwork. After the big patches that took place to change how some of these Keystone runes worked, a lot of AD carries then went towards Lethal Tempo, went towards Sorcery Tree, went towards Press the Attack instead. But Chocho picking it up for this Kai'Sa pick here seems to really want to work around having that extra mobility, especially in the late game fights, which it seems what TOP will be looking towards.
Yeah, the move speed's nice to have for certain. It's also just that little bit of extra sustain. Of course, it was nerfed on ranged champions, so it's not a significant amount, but that amount does scale up. For me, I look at this item choice, and I kind of hope he goes towards the AD build to make it a little bit more efficient. The AP Kai'Sa doesn't necessarily scale up too much. Actually, it has a 0.5 ratio. I take that back. It's very good
It is.
on ranged champions because of that. I just realized as I spoke.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good on champions like Kassadin.
Kassadin's the one who benefits the most from it, for sure.
Just because it has that hybrid scaling so much of the current.
It also stacks of Fleet Footwork scale up with spell usage. So at the same time, you'll be able to get more off if you're a spell-weaving champion, and Kai'Sa is definitely one of those.
It certainly is. Low cooldowns here and there. Very strong in the late games. Has a lot of different build paths that you can go towards as Kai'Sa. You can go towards the Storm Razors first, pick up a Gwynsos with that. Go towards the very heavy ability power route, which we saw a lot of post MSI, but a gank into the mid lane. Xiao, who's going to be able to dodge away from XX Flay. and actually gets away alive. Doesn't have to use any of his summoner spells.
Yeah, note that he's got the cleanse, so Xiaohu was never going to flash away there. If something had connected, he'd just cleanse away and walk it out, no problems at all. And that's a worthwhile trade for RNG's mid laner if someone flashed forwards. Now Let Me
does get the slowdown with the seismic shard. But Moyu's able to walk away alive. Rocking Comet in the top lane gives Malphite a little bit of extra damage.
Yeah, it certainly does. Helps a lot. And of course, having the corrupting potion stacks, most likely inspiration as his secondary.
Yeah, has to be.
So Time Warp Tonic and things like that available for him, sustaining against his opponent. And that's most likely what happened there. You know, the 3 potions with the Time Warp Tonic compared to just the 1 in the Doran Shield. He gets pushed out, but he'll be okay.
I mean, Malphite's always been such a good champion after his first recall. That's when he ties, you know, kind of evens the fights top side of the map. His biggest problem was sustain. Mana sustain, health sustain, didn't have really good trading patterns. The runes completely changed.
Oh, no, he's
but
not.
he hasn't gone towards the tonic. Said bone plating as well as second wind.
Like they can hear us.
So he's going towards resolve instead. Wants to be a little bit more tanky in this matchup, which kind of makes sense against Mo. You playing Camille, it's a very aggressive matchup.
Yeah, and against the second wind, a lot of this matchup, when you play it out, you want to keep Malphite's shield down. If you can keep it down, then you can actually trade against him. If the shield is up, he just walks up to you, presses Q, hits the comet, and walks away, no problems at all, wins the trade. So really, you have to be either consistent in your damage output or not at all.
It refreshes every 10 seconds, but he has to be out of combat from opponents.
With champions, right?
No,
just
so
in general.
as long as he's taking damage, it will not reset.
Yep.
So if a minion hits him, tough luck, buddy. So you kind of want to be forcing these fights constantly. But you have to think about it. It scales so well with Malphite that if you're not constantly in a fight against him, he's healing for almost 10% of his hit points every single time you give him a 10-second window.
Now there's a moment where TOP may be looking. The thing is, I don't think this is a look at a dive. It's super risky to do. Look at where they are at the turret as well. And he'll be getting closer and closer to the level 6 stage. There he is. This dive, if they commit to this, requires a Galio at the bare minimum, in my opinion, to make this work.
And Korn made that rotation looking towards the top side of the map, but it's just so difficult to pull off. Bear in mind that Let Me is not very tanky at the moment. He's got a Dark Seal as well as a Ruby Crystal.
See
That's
if he
it.
steps up here. It's definitely likely. They are on.
They jump on top of him. Let Me's going to take some damage to start this one. Stun locked by them, taking a lot of damage from TOP, but no summoners were used. No force coming out from either side. Let Me stays alive.
Yeah, they can't afford to dive him. Again, the Malphite ultimate would be there, and you'd most likely be dying in that trade. So they take the health advantage. This buys control of the lane 100% to Moyu, so that's a nice-to-have thing. And at first I thought maybe he was counter-ganking. So that's the taunt in the bottom lane.
Yeah, great taunt in the bottom lane. Ming's going to get the aftershock damage on towards Chol. They turn back towards Cat. Good trades coming out from RNG here. Very nice use of the dodge zone coming out from Cat, baiting RNG to continue attacking him. And actually, he's actually waiting top side of the map, going for a gank against Moyu. Doesn't get the second knocker, but does get the knock back. And first blood is going to go towards the side of Malasiangwo.
Even cancelling the hook shot. Well done here from the side of RNG. Let Me keeping the ultimate for that entire time. You'd have to feel like something was up there if you were Moyu in the top lane. He was in a position where he was constantly pushed. He was harassing his opponent. He was trying to keep him down, but he used the ultimate already. And that's your way to dodge a Malphite ultimate even, if you're able to outplay that one. So it's gone. They find their moment, and that is just a dead Camille.
You have to remember how difficult of an ability it is in general to try and pick up. That's going to deny so many minions away from Moyu.
There's no teleport, so he's not going to get there for the cannon.
No.
That's the one that'll hurt the most for him. And we'll get to see the fight again in the top lane. All Let Me has to do is press his outplay button, the modern-day Syndra. And it's very easy to lock them down. The CC combo's there. Note that Moyu had flash, and he was using the hook shot, but he had no way out.
Modern-day Syndra? Come on,
yeah,
Rusty. Like, Malphite is basically the one of the components of Bronze Zodia. You can't say this is modern day. This is the old school outplay button coming out from Let Me. But you have to remember how difficult it is of an ability to dodge out. That was very close range against Moyu as well. I believe they did some testing on Wild Turtle a few years back on how fast he can react to abilities like that, and it's just near impossible. Players are getting better at it.
Usually you have to be ready to make the play to actually dodge it. If you know that a Malphite's coming, then you'll be able to flash a bit more successfully because you can look for things like that.
And that's just flash, right? Flash is instant.
Yeah.
Anything else is going to take a near miracle to try and dodge out. Moyu is no way getting away with a hook shot unless he predicts or preempts the ultimate coming out from LetMe.
Yeah, and Zach was the one that cancelled that as well. So we do get ourselves a kill in the top lane. RNG with the first blood. So when you look at the state of this game, if you compare it to game number 1, very different.
Yep.
It's not just slow in the early game. It's slow with RNG holding the fort, not losing all of their lanes by any means, just going even.
Doesn't swing the tides of the fight too heavily in RNG's favor top side of the map. It was a kill that went to Zach, so LetMe doesn't pick it up, and he is still behind by a sizable amount of CS, about 2 waves here or there, 2 to 3 waves in favor of Moyu at the moment. Going towards the Barmy Cinder first, so Sunfire Cape should be the first pick up here for LetMe, not opting to rush the Trinity Force and try and fight Moyu in this lane.
First line of Trinity Force would be a dangerous game that you would be playing for certain. You want to go towards those tanky items first, build yourself up. And when you are unkillable, you go for the jewels. It's the best way to take them out.
You know, see, Moyu is still able to command this lane. There's nothing much that LetMe can really do. Force the farm close towards his turret. 1 trade pattern coming out from Moyu. Knocks LetMe down to just under half of his hit points, and that's through his passive as well. You'll see how far back LetMe's playing, sacrificing some of his CS, waiting for that passive to come back up.
LXG now on the bottom side as well, potentially looking, he's level 7, so...
2 things happening. Korn was looking to try and go towards top side of the map as well, but Xiaohu does rotate to look for this fight. Taunt comes through, good damage coming out from Korn, and although Xiaohu threw a lot back at him, the trade does go in favor of Galio. Blue buff was available on top of that. MLXG is still waiting inside this bush. Cat's going to try and walk in, but they jump towards Cho instead. Now trying to lock down Cat. Taunt's not good. The knockback's not good either from MLXG.
You just go on Cat in that situation.
Yeah,
and like, yes, he has a taunt. Maybe he can flash away. You still just take the damage. The risk of covering all of that extra distance onto a Kaiser who has the move speed active. That was a flash.
Yeah, MLXG looking for this fight. Doesn't get the kidnap on towards XX, but forces the flash at least out of Sejuani.
It just becomes a flash trade between junglers in the end. Of course, the threat of engage further from RNG is what forces the response here from XX. At the end of the day, the scuttle is what he wins. So a bit of extra gold into the pockets of MLXG, but boy, that felt like a lot.
But still, the gank at the bottom lane, not the best case scenario coming out for RNG. Korn is now looking to see if he can go towards top side map. He's being locked down by the ultimate coming out from Moyu. Galio jumps in as well. He's tanking up the turret, gets the uppercut, but LetMe's going to try and flash away from this one. Low sweep will be enough. Moyu gets the kill, and they finally execute that gank top lane.
Xiaohu looking, so is MLXG. They may want to counter the fight here. Shen's coming in for you.
Shen is going to come in. Rubber hands don't connect. Cat is here for the taunt. Locks down MLXG. Taunt's going to come out to both players. Vanguard's edge being thrown out by Xiaohu. Dashes over towards one. Moyu taking a lot of damage. They pop Zach's
XX
passive. XX is here. They get the kill on towards Camille. Xiaohu's going to try and flash back towards the turret. MLXG does go down, and TOP are running through RNG on the top side of the map. Xiaohu's got nowhere to go. Top flash is good and clean coming out from TOP.
And it is squeaky out of the TOP roster. Teleport comes in from LetMe, and it's just going to be defense of the turret. So once again, TOP, they'll start this one off with a bang. They found their moment. And that moment was the combo of the team composition. That's going to hit him, by the way.
Let's go!
I don't know if that's the noise it makes. It'll slow him down. I don't know where the noise
hey.
is. It's still there. Don't worry.
What? No, it's not. It's gone.
All right. I mean, that's,
You lied to me.
really
It
disappointing.
disappeared.
It's submerged. It'll come back in a minute. By the way, the play went in favor of Timmy. That was very distracting. There's good stuff from them. Their combo, that thing you saw from them, the Galio and the Camille, will happen again. And it may not be onto the Malphite next time, so that's the thing you have to keep your eyes on. Top lane's doing well. There's a lot of damage threat here, and Moyu doesn't actually take the turret aggro. He ults and locks him in place, waits for the Galio to come in before he initiates the combo. We're back top.
Oh no, LetMe being ganked again. XX gets into the top lane. Kidnap's going to bring it back towards turret range. XX will tank this one up. But nobody else from RNG is close towards top side of the map. They can't help out. So we don't see the combo, Rusty, but TOP are targeting this Malphite in the top lane.
And for me, whilst it's targeting Malphite, it's also about getting the Camille ahead. He is a big part of their compositional success. And a lot of the comp, whilst it's getting towards Cho in the late game, having the Kaiser be a big carry, a second threat is so important for them. And he is the second threat. You know that if Cho gets items, he'll be big. But if you can get Moyu there sooner, that mid-game bridging point of a Trinity Force as well, he'll one-hit Abel.
There's a lot more to it as well. Teleport got nerfed a few patches ago. It's on a much longer cooldown now. LetMe is going to be relying on his teleport throughout the mid-game. He needs that to get into side lanes. He needs that to get back into the bottom side of the map. He needs that if he keeps getting ganked as well, so he can get back into his own lane. Moyu's going to push wave after wave into this turret. He's going to take first turret for himself. Now Let Me can't even take him in a one-on-one. He can't rotate the side lanes effectively. He's at a teleport disadvantage. This is really good priority coming out from TOP. In fact, they picked up a 2,500 gold lead just from forcing on the top side of the map alone.
And they get that first turret solo to Moyu as well, so that 600 gold into the kitty. Feeling real good for himself, getting close to that item spike. The Phage is done. With that first turret gone, however, you have to look at TOP and say, what's next for them? Because they've got the turret, but if you put Moyu back up into that lane to stay there and even look at it inner, he's very deep. He needs supervision from the rest of his team to actually protect him, and that opens up the bottom as a weak point on the map. I think you have to now change where that strong area on the map is going to be, but I wonder if lane swapping's even the solution to that, having a Shen and a Kaiser in the top side.
If history repeats itself, Rusty, what's going to happen next is RNG going to come out with an RKO out of nowhere. They're just going to hit TOP with something random, and it's going to be quite difficult for them to fight back. TOP need to find a way to stop that from happening, in my opinion. If RNG find a fight, find the pick first, they will snowball out of control. We've seen RNG able to do this against multiple teams. And that's not just talking about this set. Already in set 1, that happened. RNG found a couple of fights, snowballed out of control.
Yeah, I mean, in a game they shouldn't have won.
True.
They absolutely did RNG just by being that good as a team and individually to make the big plays. One thing that's missing from RNG this time around is the Rise and the Xin Zhao combo. Yep. So their engage is Let Me. And I think that's a big thing that TOP do have as a saving grace for themselves. If they can initiate any kind of split push, if it's 4-1 and Camille can just hold the Malphite, then they'll be very cozy as a team composition. The change here, however, is MLXG is on Zac. MLXG's engage patterns are very sporadic. They're hard to predict. They're hard to actually prevent. And a Sejuani can actually cancel a Zac's Elastic Slingshot if he is in position to just charge at that.
Yep.
But you have to know the angle.
It's another one of those things where if you're ready for it, you can stop it. And it's not too hard to stop it. But if MLXG catches you by surprise, which it's MLXG, he's always going to catch you by surprise once or twice to the map. It is difficult.
They just caught the Aurelia shopping here, so they're going to get a full charge off. That may be the turret.
That's dead. Turret's going to go
down. The rest of RNG, though, they were grouping up around the area, so if it didn't go down in that one charge, they may have gone for the engage. I don't think they would have got there in time this time. The second charge to boot.
And they're going to go for a fight as well. MLXG in a lot of trouble. Taunt's going to connect. Cholcho gets that kill. Korn was looking to try and see if he can go forward as well. Abel's going to be able to knock back XX.
No summoners.
Waiting for the taunt. Has flash available, but great stun. Xiaohu going to disengage. Cholcho does tag him with the ultimate. Oh, but Moyu just flying out of nowhere. TOP going to be able to take down Abel, so that's 2 kills going over the way of TOP.
Yeah, the Camille's able to assassinate him. No teleport used by Moyu as well, so he's still going to be able to side lane, no problems. You're looking at the bot lane outer turret being threatened, the mid lane inner turret being threatened simultaneously, and Xiaohu, even after such a great stun, he's not going to be able to do all of that work in multiple lanes, and so they are going to have to lose an objective, you would imagine. Well done from TOP.
Very well done from TOP, taking it to RNG in game 2. Once again, the early game or mid game has gone in favor of TOP. Korn's going to get his recall stop. He's going to be pretty annoyed by that, but let's take a look at that again because they reacted to this. They disengaged first and then turned around. Abel
But the thing is, like, I don't even know if it's Abel out of position or all of RNG just being a little bit silly with their positioning. You know, that Gragas cast, whilst it does knock XX onto Abel, that's really unfortunate. Might have been able to survive. It's the part before that where they walk through mid, through the river, where they have control of the river but not the lanes themselves. Good flash, of course, from Moyu at the end. Secures himself the kill. But you have to look before the fight happens, because that wasn't a fight, that was a massacre, and it was one that TOP would happily take because RNG came towards them.
Very sloppy plays coming out from RNG. They tried to punish TOP for their aggressive use of Rift Herald. Doesn't work out. TOP played the early and mid-game macro game very strong. They follow up on the team fights this time even stronger. That's something that TOP did not have in the last match. They were getting picks against RNG, but when it came to proper skirmishes, when it came to team fights, RNG were ahead. The gold spoke for itself. 6,000 gold ahead for TOP. RNG was still 8-3. They were still ahead in kills by an entire ace. So this time around, much stronger coming out from TOP. Much better in this match. Let's see if they can follow through. Because Letme's been on an island this entire time. He's been stuck underneath his turret. Moyu's been pushing in quite aggressively. Now he does have teleport for himself, so we could see him try and start a fight. TOP looking. They're going to try and start a fight here. Cat going to take some damage. Rubber Hands not going to connect just yet. Gallagher going to try and join the fight, but Stopwatch was burnt by Cat just to keep himself alive for a little bit longer. XX is waiting behind this turret, but the turret is still fairly healthy at the moment.
Yeah, it made you wonder if they would consider diving. Cat not having the stopwatch may have been a concern for them, but he did have the ultimate, so there was a chance. And then you look towards the top laners. Both have teleport, of course, so both are potentially able to come into the fight. And I think that's where TOP said maybe not this time. If we dive that Malphite, we give RNG an opportunity. That's an opportunity they choose not to take. Instead, they're just going to continue that slow snowball where that lead of about 4,000, maybe it stretches up to 4.5, maybe to 5, and keeps growing that way up until the Baron is alive, and that may be their big bet.
Well, we just saw then that 71% of the fans think that this will go in the way of RNG. I'm actually surprised that that number is not a lot higher. TOP have had a good run, but it's RNG. This is the beloved team of China at the moment.
It's not RNG with Uzi play.
It's true.
It's not the full RNG roster. I would even say that Kasa may be a better matchup into XX as well.
Why
in
so?
terms of style. Now, Kasa's much more cerebral and likes to find his opposing jump. I mean, MLXG is just a risk. And it's not a bad risk at times, but he is a risk.
How does that help in the matchup against XX? How does the cerebral style coming out from Kasa allow him to go better against XX than MLXG's
XX
chaos?
is known as the MVP of the team for the most part. You know, he's been racking up a lot of those, but also if he's doing well, a lot of their success hinges on his back. He's had very good Gragas plays. It's actually a champion that's high priority for or against him by their opponents. And I think if you give him any kind of advantages, then suddenly, you know, he could snowball the game out for his team. And Kasa's biggest strength being able to track and find his opposing jungler, and whether it's preventative or not, whether it's a counterplay, I think Kasa does that a little bit better than MLXG. So that's why I think the matchup may be in Kasa's favor. And of course, remember that this is game 2 of a best of 5, so there's always a chance we get them out if TOP can win.
Quite a few surprises. I mean, Uzi not starting in playoffs is an interesting one coming out from RNG. Normally when it comes towards playoffs, that's when Uzi's playing every single match for the squad. Swapping out Let Me and Satai is nothing unknown. MLXG playing both matches. What would be the squad if you were in the finals for RNG right now? If they made it all the way to the finals, what's the 5-man squad you start with, Rusty?
The one that won MSI, most likely, would still be the same squad. I think Letme's had a fantastic split for himself, and I prefer Kasa's style working with Uzi, and Eddie carries it back, so why not go back to the one that worked for you before?
Any speculation, though, as to why Abel has been starting for the last 2 maps at least?
I mean, there's very fair speculation to say that Uzi is still feeling injuries. Any break you can give him would be amazing. I also think that they've been playing a lot of League of Legends, so any chance that you can put Abel in and give Uzi a small rest would be very much appreciated for him. And it's a best of 5, so why not bring something different in? And Abel was one of the few players that could bring in different roles in the bottom lane position, back before it was even meta. He was playing Yasuo AD carry.
He was the first. He was number 1.
He was the one who revolutionized a big part of that. So he's always on the pulse, and you saw his mechanics in that game number 1, especially once you get to late game. This is a kid on fire.
Could be a big spanner in the works as well. We've seen the early game go really heavily in favor of Cholcho, especially in map 1. 40 odd CS ahead of Abel, and it's kind of been Abel's story whenever he played for RNG. From time to time he'd fall behind in the lane, but late game hits and he shows that he's perfectly strong in that part of the map. In this case, though, what if they do bring it in Uzi for game 3 or game 4, and suddenly that early game where Cholcho had so much strength could be completely taken away?
I mean, that's the first part that they have to do here, TOP. You want to get Uzi out, you got to beat the current roster. Otherwise, you're not even going to get the real raid boss out first. This is phase 1 of the raid boss. They haven't been able to get that victory yet.
You don't get to take on the king till you take down his squire. Probably not how any of medieval history goes, but yeah.
Close enough. We'll just say that was how it worked. Now, Cloud Dragon did, of course, go over to TOP. I'll be able to lock that one down. MLXG soloed out the first Cloud, so there's 2 Clouds on the map and an Ocean coming up next. Not a lot of offensive style dragons, and a 28-minute Ocean Dragon is not ideal for any team. It is more just a dragon that has to be taken for the Elder to spawn afterwards.
Give me another Cloud at that point. Make me run faster.
Yeah.
You can see a Warlock's armor being picked up by MLXG, comboing with the Cinderhawk jungle completed item. Not sure if he's at 3,000 hit points. He might be just above at the moment.
We haven't clicked him, so I'm not too sure.
Yeah,
what we do have to look at now is the Baron buff, and as I go to say that, they immediately started. It's been spotted on Vision as well, RNG. They'll get here in time.
2 games in a row, TOP have gone back towards their Dan gaming strategies. Channel Dan, let's go. 20-minute Baron never fails, right? Right?
MLXG also just cancelled his charge on Vision. Makes you wonder if they were ever going to consider that, but they'll back away. There is no harm in trying. At 20 minutes, if you find a chance, of course, it's 23, so you've even got extra damage there potentially. Kaiser now, 2 done items.
The control ward being placed down by RNG is crucial, though. I mean, the blue trinkets, they can be stopped by control wards, but control wards give you that vision.
They're just going again. Ming does have a control ward. He also has 2 regular wards he can place down. MLXG, you can barely see him, but he's in range. And they'll never see him coming as well. Now, XX, if he stands in the correct position, could maybe cancel the jump. Zach is in.
Zach's going to jump in first. MLXG's inside the pit. 2,000 hit points on Baron. They take him down and towards his passive nice and early. Can they smite this Baron in time before he comes back up? Oh, missed smite coming out from XX. Gragas is going to take it. RNG have stolen Baron, but the fight is still going in favor of TOP. Chocho is trying to kite this one out. TOP fight forward, push on towards the red buff. Moyu does get tagged. Xiaohu is forced to retreat, but the winds of war are going to come out, and Cat comes in with the shadow dash. Fight goes to TOP.
The one thing that tarnishes the record for TOP was the smite at about 1,000 HP. They're not going to lock that one down. Maybe he thought that MLXG could smite while in Bloblets. We'll never know the answer to that one, but the burst was not timed well. TOP still get the fight, however. They get a tower on the backside of it, and they did get 4 kills. Abel, the only person left, I believe, with the Baron buff standing. Still a major victory for TOP, but it could have been so much sweeter if they'd secured that Baron.
Could have been, but they stuck to their play. Watch how they burst down MLXG and immediately turn towards the Baron.
And Moyu was zoning the rest of them as well. Ming, I believe, steals this with just a Q. And you'll see the smite coming across in a hot second. And there's still so much health
right
there.
Here.
700. It looks like it did no damage.
Didn't do much, but we are very early into the match as well, so Smite's not going to be doing the 800.
Yeah, but it actually looked like it did nothing.
Ah. Better ruling Smite, but he does fall down afterwards. TOP do win this team fight. Was stolen away by a Q that came out from Ming. He had used his ultimate earlier on.
And Abel also gets out quite cleanly for himself as well, using the ultimate after the jump was cancelled by Camille. So, end of the day, he'll get out alive, and that does give them the single Baron.
But they still fall really far behind here. They're 8,000 gold behind TOP. This is a very scary situation now. If you're RNG, you're going to say, 2 games in a row, we've lost the early game. And mid-game is where we had to fight
they're
back.
engaging bottom. Zach, no elastic slingshot.
It's not looking too good. Xiaohu is going to get locked down. Throws at the Vanguard's edge, though. Moyu taking a lot of damage. Stopwatch is going to keep him alive, and Galio will jump in to keep him safe. Xiaohu finds some fancy footwork to get out of that fight, but TOP use their combo and don't get a pick for it.
Yeah, nice dash away to safety. Moyu goes back to base, and remember that he has got the teleport, so he'll be able to come back in. But now the siege from TOP starts into a Baron buff, and is a little bit harder to do. They're not able to 1-3-1. They're not side laning. RNG were the ones also considering going towards the side lane and engage. TOP were just the ones who said us first. So everything equalizes, and they won't really get anything in this bottom lane.
It gives RNG that chance, that fighting chance, to find the similar flanks, the similar big plays that we saw from game 1. With Baron buff stopping the push coming out from TOP, RNG can fight on their terms if they choose to. They don't have the teleport from Xiaohu. They don't have the Rise ultimate that Xiaohu had in the last match. But this time they have Let Me and MLXG, who can force fights even easier than what we saw from map 1.
And you can see lane assignment-wise, currently Xiaohu is actually the one in the lane of the Camille. I feel like if you're going to start a fight, you need the Malphite nearby just as much as you need the Zac. Teleporting in could be quite delayed, and he doesn't even have that available. So they try and put the best side lane matchup possible. There is a world, of course, where Xiaohu can cancel teleports, so I'm okay with that if they can cancel the TP. But I don't know if this 4-man of RNG does enough damage. That's the concern that you'd have right now. Because in a world where Xiaohu does get a successful side lane and can hold the fort down with Moyu, can they even 4v4 into a very conventional composition of TOP in the 4v4?
There's still some time before we'll see Abel pick up his Infinity Edge, and even then, Twissano is not fully online, right? Brawler's Gloves will help Abel out slightly, will put him up to 80% crit, which is going to be nice from RNG when he gets to that point. There's still some time before they get there. You can already see that Chocho is going towards the very aggressive ability power route for Kai'Sa. Guinsu's Rage Blade, as well as Nash's Tooth. Probably going towards Zhonya's next.
Yeah, most likely towards the Zhonya's. Now, with that AP item build as well, we mentioned the Fleet Footwork still pretty good for him as an option. And they're just going to go get themselves the free Ocean Dragon on the backside of the barrel.
I mean, Fleet Footwork helps out in the sense that going towards AP Kai'Sa, you're not going to have too many ways to actually heal yourself too.
Yeah, you also have the bloodline usually in the tree, so for what it's worth, lots of healing comes from runes that you don't need to then purchase in items, so you're absolutely correct.
Which is nice, but Banshee's Veil has been picked up by Chocho. I was wrong, not Azonia's.
That is weird.
That is weird. I've seen quite a lot of Kai'Sa as
Yeah,
their
I
third
respect
item.
it for certain. I think it's good. It's cooldown reduction, it's AP as well, and it's a Banshees that prevents an engage tool from RNG. So if you're against a Malphite, you could go two ways. That is Azonia's that blocks the damage completely, but puts you in a compromised position. Or you can go Banshees that doesn't let him engage in the first place. You don't have to make the mechanical outplay of pressing Zonias, where other CC may stop you. So it is a perfectly good choice.
It just makes it that much harder for RNG. Now with the Banshees available, they can't really fight on their terms, which is one of RNG's win conditions here. They have to force fights on their terms, on their turf. With the Banshees, they have to first pop the Banshees, and then go towards Chocho. He's majority of his team's damage as well.
I mean, that's why a lot of this is now going to be suddenly MLXG, maybe not Let Me, going for the initial parts of the engage. MLXG currently even hovering, considering at every possible moment the threat is enough.
We do get the big item spike though for RNG. Abel has picked up his Infinity Edge. He's also picked up his Brawler's Gloves, so a nice 80% crit chance for him. And then you've got the Zeke's Harbinger being picked up by Mick, adding even more damage to Abel later in these fights.
That's all I'm saying. As we're getting closer and closer to that late game Abel Tristana with 3 and a little bit of items done. Of course, the Brawler's Glove, we mentioned this last game being that big spike. Yes, they are snowballed, TOP, and they are very strong. Their side lane is very strong. I'm not sure what that was from MLXG. RNG can still team fight. And if they can get the front to back going with a 3-item Tristana, maybe they get to 4, then things actually are still possible for them. And I'm getting some hints of deja vu potentially, with bottom lane being a big point to focus.
I think a big point for RNG as well is going to be when Let Me picks up his Trinity Force, because now he's on 2 tank items. Trinity Force is coming up
Do you think it'll be a
next.
Trinity Force?
It's got a Sheen unless he goes towards Iceborne Gauntlet. Either way, I still think that's a big item pickup coming out for Let Me.
Yeah.
When his Sheen is complete, that's going to provide even more consistent damage coming out from RNG, which currently only Xiaohu and Abel provide.
Yeah,
And
Trinity
Abel
Force
is Xiaohu's in small amounts.
Yeah, you're right. Trinity Force is totally viable to actually provide extra damage. It's a duelist item, so if your goal is to, say, kill the Kai'Sa, then yeah, I mean, it's a possible item. But at the same time, Iceborne Gauntlet giving that utility. There's XX.
Yeah, going towards XX. Zeke's Harbinger gets
Whoa,
popped
that
there.
jump.
It's Abel dashes in. He's going to get locked down by the taunt. Forced to cleanse. Used it a little bit later.
Jojo.
Jojo trying to go to the back lights. Knocked back and away by Abel. Big taunt! Korn able to lock down too. MLXG forced away as Abel's already been taken down. Knocked into his passive once again. And Abel just too big for his shoes at the moment. Jumping into that fight where he should not have. Jumping straight on top of Moyu. He's going to get knocked out of his Guardian Angel, but he's away from turret range. So we do have a fight on 2 fronts. But TOP come out on top.
Yeah, Let Me winning the duel, though, may save the game at the very least. Teleport's coming in towards the top side, however. Moyu wants to make the play for the inhib at the very least right now.
They've got it.
You've got Abel dead for 20, MLXG dead for 25, and Let Me with no ultimate. I wonder if TOP will keep going. It looks like they're going to try.
It's 15 seconds on Abel to come back up. Cat's going to go in for the first fight. Letme's going to get locked down, forced to flash away very early on. But they've already cleared all the minions. So these are fortified turrets that TOP are fighting against. They do disengage. They do back off. RNG live to fight another day. But very good push coming out from TOP.
And the teleport expended by Moyu. It makes you wonder if they wanted to go towards the Baron, perhaps after, not push towards the end, but still an inhib falls. And that's what matters the most. They have broken the base. The gold lead has not been brought back by RNG winning a team fight as it accelerated for TOP up to 10,000. Korn coming up with a big play now, 4-0 and 6 on the Galio. Like you mentioned, though, it is a bit too much for Abel. Jumping forwards, if we see that replay, you'll know that it's a mistake from the second he presses W.
It was just a hypey play coming out from Abel as well. If nobody else was there, it would have been a good move because he had the Zeke's ultimate coming out from Gragas. He had all the damage in the world to try and take down XX, whose passive was popped. His Aftershock had worn off. It was a great time for Abel to go forward. But being locked down.
Baron's been started.
And even after being locked down, cleansing late, flashing away late, taking way too much damage to start means he couldn't follow up on the back half of the fight. But you're right, Baron has been started.
That was a Sejuani ultimate, just missed as well over the wall.
Yep, 4,000 hit points.
Area.
RNG have stolen it once. They can try and go for another steal. MLXG is waiting for this fight. Xiaohu might be locked down here, taking some damage, but he's okay.
That's good from TOP. They choose not to press forwards into places where RNG have the vision controlled. They don't want to go forwards into a Malphite. They don't want to risk those team fights. Baron is the primary focus.
Yeah, it's also look at the ways. Bottom lane's pushing in for the side of TOP. Top lane's pushing in. In fact, they've got Abel on the top side of the map, so no AD carry for RNG just yet. He's going to try and collapse. MLXG gets jumped on. Kidnap going to try and bring 2 back, but the jungler is already dead. 4 on 5 at the moment. Cat has retained. Chocho take a lot of damage. Abel going to try and jump in Korn. Looking for the taunt. Doesn't get it. Great stopwatch coming out from Abel. Trying to disengage. Knocks one back. Rocket jumps away. He is still alive for now. But Chocho does get taken down. TOP lose the AD carry, and that's an abundance of damage being taken away from TOP's comp.
Yeah, Abel actually played that one very well, but it was just to survive. It wasn't to win in the fight. Xiaohu now well out of position. He's going to try his hardest to survive, but it's really just about buying all the time you can.
Yeah, we've got Galio jumping as well. Xiaohu's going to try and fight his way out of this, but it's not going to be enough. Guardian Angel gets popped. Does buy time for RNG, but that's going to be a very long death timer coming out for Xiaohu. 1 minute total. And TOP are in position to siege Baron once again.
They may be able to seize this game on top of the Baron if they secure this one. Inhib gone, MLXG, he's going to maybe sprint forwards, but he knows he can't get there at all. It's not safe. He's just going to defend the top lane. RNG concede the Baron. TOP well in the driver's seat.
Certainly are. Baron is going to go the way of TOP. They're over 10,000 gold ahead of RNG, and we are in the late game, guys.
Definitely are. You'll get to see this fight again, MLXG. The one who's caught out of position initially by the Camille. They've made a conscious choice here, TOP. They want the engage. They don't want the Baron. They don't want the objective just yet. Abel, of course, finds Chocho, and Xiaohu is able to take him down, something that may delay the Baron. But Xiaohu can't get back over the wall, and Abel is just left to run away. And from this position, he was caught out, and he had to run for his life, and eventually goes down.
That's pretty much all she wrote. RNG tried and tried to defend that Baron multiple times. TOP making the right call almost every single time. Even when they lost the first Baron that was stolen away by Ming, it was still the right call. They tried to force it, they tried to force the fight, and they won the fight afterwards. 4-0 at that as well in the first Baron fight. So we're taking a look at the items from the side of RNG. How do they fight back against Baron buff? How do they fight back 12,000 gold behind?
Can they is the question. Not so much how do they find the opportunity, but can they even do that?
Can they,
Rusty? When TOP are well equipped to take them on right now. They've got extra damage sources. Every individual that is tanky can deal damage because they're ahead.
Well, Abel sold his stopwatch and picked up the most inefficient item on a carry at the moment. Last Whisper's been picked up by Abel, not upgraded, still sitting on his Zeal as well.
Mid lane's the place that they're looking. Moyu in the side lane. I don't think Let Me can stop him at all if he doesn't want to expend the ulti.
Oh, TOP jumping in, going to be able to lock down Ming. Chocho dash in the back lines. They kill the support right away. Abel forced to use his own cleanse. Kiting away, but he does no damage to the front line of XX. Moyu going to take some damage, knocked away. XX does charge away, locks down MLXG. Meanwhile, TOP take down one in here, but the second one's going to fall as well. All 3 have been broken. RNG push back towards their base.
They're going for
5 members strong. TOP going to go in. Moyu jumping into the first fight here. Abel trying to kite away from this one. Get taken down. RNG lose their AD carry. Everyone else is slowly dropping as well. TOP, they've come out to play. They tie up the series 1-1.
And we absolutely have a series on our hands at that. TOP, the advantage in game 1, they ultimately went down, but they win the second. Could have been 2-0, but now it's 1-1. In this series, maybe that was enough to bring out Uzi. Maybe it was enough to bring out the god himself. RNG have him waiting in the wings, and TOP have said, come and get me.
But even then, even when we say, you know, this is the time to bring out Uzi, was that the problem on the map here? Game 1, sure, you might be able to argue that Abel was a significant problem. 40 CS behind, a lot of the plays rotated around bottom lane, moving around the map. But in this match, TOP just targeted the top side of the map. That's the part of the map that fell so early on.
It's not a case of Abel being the problems per se, more that Uzi could be the solution for RNG because they're confident and they're comfortable around him. This was a lot better from TOP though overall. You saw the Sejuani come in. They looked a lot better with that. You also saw Moyu get to play carries in that top lane. Yes. And he had a pop-off game because the team worked around him. Galio for Korn, something that was banned in game number 1, now available for him, and you can see why it was banned.
XX finding some confidence as well. He did not have a very good Camille game in the last map against RNG, and surprise coming out from TOP as well. In their last series, when they played against Suning to get to this, it almost looked like Suning were going to sweep them. Yeah. TOP had to pull it back in that best of 5, and it was close till the final game. But to break down that second map and to bring us into the next, let's send it back to the analyst desk.
Thank you, Fish. And here we are, 1-1. And I feel like I may have to give this over to Mr. 3-0 to start off this discussion. So what went wrong, Raz? Why didn't we get the 2-0 here for RNG?
A lot of it came down to the top side of the map really being broken open. Usually, if there is a team going in challenging let me side of the map, he's feeling comfortable because in the next play he can go bottom lane. There was no response in that. In fact, when Zach went bottom side of the map, the gank fizzled when he went on towards Zach. And that's really where the question lied, is that Chocho played it incredibly safe alongside Cat, and they got out of the laning phase unscathed in both side lanes.
Yes, he did. I mean, it was a lot of ganks that went on towards the top lane to start off, and it actually looked good in the first gank because nothing happened, and then he got the counter gank on top lane. It's like, okay, great. We get a free pass through the early game when you've got a Malphite up top lane. This should be going well, but it was repeated dives, repeated ganks that happened. They just kind of brute forced open the game.
Yeah, and the big thing here is I felt like Lemmy actually underperformed quite heavily onto the matchup into the top side. You can see usually when this matchup happens, the Malphite takes aggressively and dying. He maxes the attack speed slow, but this time around he wanted to play more aggressive. He took the Comet, actually skilled into the Q early on as well. But what happened there was XX was actually able to flip the matchup with his presence in the top lane. So the poke was no longer there, and Camille actually had wave control over that matchup. So even though the first gank did not work out for TOP, they actually got the push and they changed the dynamics of the matchup where they could consistently just shove Malphite in. And I think that was a big misstep coming out from RNG, not really getting what they needed out of their counter matchup. Yeah. And on top of that, I just feel like they lacked a in-game strategy overall. The ganks were very diffused. They went top lane, they went bot lane. They had no successful play. The only gank they got throughout the early series in these two games was actually just in that one gank into the top side. So there's not enough early action for RNG to then move their entire composition later towards the game.
And it was interesting, right? Because we looked at this composition. It's like, once again, Korn is not picking up a major carry in the mid lane. He's actually supporting the bottom lane of Chocho. And it's just like, really, in game 2, that's where you want to put your eggs right now. You want to give it over to Chocho and see if he can scale. Well, that did happen because of those reasons, because it wasn't action happening in the game from RNG.
And this is an incredibly defensive composition in the sense that if there was any point of pressure coming out of RNG, post 6 that is, towards the bottom side of the map, the ability of Camille Galio was just a lot of threat there. So I felt the fact that Moyu was able to break open the map 13 minutes of the game, top lane goes down and they can look towards swapping lanes, that meant a lot because the Malphite was not going to be able to impact the opposite side of the lane. He actually was consistently pressing his own matchup, as you were mentioning. And then they wouldn't be able to look for a dive in the opposite side of the match because while the Tristana was having some issues, the issue is also if Zach goes in, he gets nullified by the Galio ultimate. So compositionally, it made a lot of sense for TOP to pick this in the sense that you allow Moyu to get the early lead, you give him the opening post 15, and then there's no way for RNG to find an opposite access.
And it's just the fact that TOP were able to execute on this, right? Because we've already seen the TOP coming out of their previous preparation in the round 1 matchup. That did not work, and they tried it very hard in game 1 and game 2. Went back to what worked in regular season, but then right here, we don't see carries. We see basically a team composition fit to try and take apart RNG, and they execute well on it.
You know what this composition reminds me of?
What's that?
It's the LCK anti-Chinese comp played at Asian games. They have double global compositions to basically defend any aggression you're going at you. And you have to remember, these are divers themselves as well. So they work in a basically double-edged sword where you can punish, and then you have already very strong protection against what RNG is most likely to do, which is the global collapse, basically.
And I think the amount of engage that they had in terms of their options around the Baron buff really secured it for them because the Baron dance that they had for a very long time was a very strong access for them. So red side jungle fights that were coming through, very hard to fight in corridors around what TOP had access to. It was just unfortunate because, you know, TOP, when it comes to their Baron steal stack, it's just unfortunate that they actually lose a lot of Barons consistently. This was just incredibly unlucky on the side of XX, just pointing out the fact that he did go to like 800 HP. He goes for the smite, but nothing comes down on towards the Baron because he actually smites the Zac passive there.
Yeah, the blob. Yep.
So that is super impactful because they've been playing around this for quite some time in the sense that, sure, 4 minutes for it, they finally look for the Baron fight. It doesn't, at least the buff itself doesn't go their way, so they actually have to commit to the fight. So they look for the next Baron buff, and that's when they're able to nail down the game. So usually TOP has faster games. It would have been a much faster game in this sense if they were able to net the first Baron buff. So it's just the difference between what was a longer series or was a longer game and would have been, I would say, a 30-minute game if they completed this.
And despite, XX will still get our MVP in this one. And, I mean, yeah, I do agree with you. From that point, it was just like we looked at each other and it's like, is this the point where RNG mount a comeback, right? Like the fact that, yes, they lost the team fight, but they managed to store the Baron. It gives them another shot, gives them another 5, 6, 7 minutes to actually mount something. But it didn't really happen. You saw the goal graph. It was just from mid-game all the way to the late game. It was just one smooth sail coming out from TOP.
First 10 minutes for XX was just purely in the top side of the map. I think the control that he had there, a lot of control wars that he was able to place to allow his adjacent lanes, just free laning phase, is great. The pressure he put top lane too, because to your point, Comet being picked up by Malphite, he had control until he lost 60% of HP in that first game.
Yeah, pretty
so
much.
I thought XX initial pressure top lane to allow Moyu to be a lot more free in the game was a definite thumbs up.
The big thing for RNG going forward is that they really need to have a laning phase strategy. I think what you've seen with Karsa, where they are successful, is that they go super hard on a single lane. Most of the times it is bot lane. They're not doing that with Abel right now, but at least I would have expected them to invest more heavily into the mid side. They can't really go into this with a scaling composition with the Kaisa and just go like, we're not going to play any conflicts early on. That's not what's going to happen. I don't think that's a winning strategy for them. So whether they swap their players in or not, I think they're going to play a similar strategy, but they need a stronger laning phase.
Well, that's the question, right? It's just like, will they swap people? And we're about to find out. We are going to take a short break and see what RNG do moving into game number 3.
想要在这里生存下去，必须倾尽所有。